think we're finally getting into the good stuff. What I mean by good stuff is the things that I actually probably will remember. By the time the 80s were finished, I was 3 years old, 3.5, let's see. But all right, let's check it out. Name of the video is the 10 popular things from the 80s that we've abandoned. This is coming from the channel Recollection Road.
The 1980s was loaded with moments that perfectly represent the time.
Okay.
The after-school special is one of these moments. ABC dreamt up the idea, and it aired the moral-teaching movies throughout the entirety of the decade. The other big channels got in on it too, with NBC's Special Treat and CBS's School Break Special. The topics covered everything imaginable, from drugs to divorce. But generally, they tried to teach kids life lessons. The specials were also known for their attention-grabbing titles, which had kids jumping off the bus, grabbing a snack, and flipping on the TV throughout the 1980s.
Yeah, I don't remember this. The Day My Kid Went Punk? Is that a bad thing?
The late 1980s was dominated by time spent at the mall. One of the most memorable stores at the mall was the Glamour Shots studio. This is where you could go to have a celebrity-type photo shoot, with over-the-top makeup, props, and of course, the airbrushing effects.
And of course, the Vaseline on the front of the lens of the camera to make it, like that.
These photos weren't cheap either, with hundreds of dollars being shelled out for just one session. But nonetheless, women loved it, and the company continued to grow into the 1990s.
Yeah, I remember
the Glamour
these.
Shots style was pretty iconic, but it also was easily dated, which is why it has faded into obscurity.
Right. Like, I absolutely went to the mall to take photos, guys. In like the early 2000s, though.
Shoe stores like Tom McCann and Kinney's Shoes were the place to go before every store sold shoes. Shoe salesmen would help you find that perfect pair of shoes, and then manually measure your foot to check your size. They would then disappear into the back and finally bring you a perfectly fitted pair of shoes that they would help you into with the assistance of their special stool and maybe even a shoehorn.
I remember this type of service, though. Good times.
Today, there is much less emphasis on serving customers in this way, and so you have to try on shoes yourself to find the pair that fits the best.
Absolutely. You have to know your size exactly, and then each brand kind of does size differently. Like, don't think you're going to go in there into the store and get a pair of boots, let's say, and think that your boot size is the same size as your overall shoe size or basketball shoe size or tennis shoe size.
Ever since the late 1980s, when the waterbed hit its peak, it's been slowly disappearing from the American home. The waterbed became a new way to sleep during the 1970s, and it was popular with bachelors. It was during the 1980s that it successfully made the leap to the suburban bedroom, and by 1987, 1 out of 5 mattresses purchased in the US were waterbeds. The real problems with waterbeds was the installation and setup, and the difficulty in moving a waterbed was even more complicated. Plus, there was always the fear of your mattress springing a leak.
Yeah, that's the only thing I think of every time I hear of these waterbeds. Now, it's been probably over the last week for the first time I actually, cared to look into it, right? I can definitely tell you, I'm not sure I would want one in my house bursting. And let's say it's in an upstairs bedroom. Oh my. The level of damage that's created with this one singular thing, it would be too much. I could never mentally. Yeah.
Which is why the waterbed has pretty much vanished from bedrooms. The video rental store was the way many of us kicked off our weekends during the 1980s. There was something special about the evenings perusing the new releases and horror sections, and you would usually walk out of there with a stack of movies to keep you busy all weekend. Stores like Blockbuster, family video, and Hollywood video were among the most common, but there were also countless small local video stores that served up movies to the masses. Getting your own membership card, remembering to rewind all the VHS tapes, and paying the late charges were all part of the experience. Today, on-demand streaming services have made video rental stores obsolete, but for many, those trips to rent movies were half the fun.
This was the best time in life, I'm telling you. Like before the streaming services, physical media and things like that. But like before the streaming services, we had Blockbuster. We would go on like a weekday or a weekend night, rent video games, because obviously I'm from that era of Blockbuster when they had video games to rent, right? Then they had like DVDs and VHSs. I miss this era. I'm telling you, I just do. I think there needs to be something like this. I know Redbox tried to kind of do something like that. I don't know if they're still around, but bring back physical media. That's it. There was something better about this. I can't put my finger on it. It was just something better with like having less choice. If that makes any sense. The overabundance of something is not a good thing all the time.
The VCR era that made video rentals so popular also made recording onto blank VHS tapes a big deal. Not only could you record your favorite TV show, but you could also use your camcorder to record home movies. Those wood-paneled drawer boxes were...
Okay, bro, what he's saying about a camcorder and these large, like full-size VHSs, yeah, I'm not sure that people were doing that. Like, not large scale, at least. Because those camcorders were absolutely gigantic. And they needed a shoulder rig to kind of use. Like, you had to sit on your shoulder and like that. It's a little crazy to say that everyone was doing that. I'm sure there were some people doing it, but not everybody.
Where we stored them all, and often there were multiple things recorded on the same tape, so it was sometimes hard to find what you were looking for. You might also remember adjusting the tracking on the VCR to get the picture just right. Recording on these VHS tapes is a thing of the past, and nowadays, if you want to record a video, you just take out your cell phone.
I saw an advertisement from an old company called Radio Shack. It's no longer around, I don't think. And someone was speaking about this, about how what you have in your pocket is literally everything that they sold on the front page of Radio Shack back in the day, right? Your phone does every single thing that those things were. It was crazy, right? It was crazy.
There are few advertisements that are as memorable as the As Seen on TV commercials of the 1980s. The clapper was one of the biggest selling gadgets during this time, and it allowed you to control lights with the clap of your hands.
People still use these.
Their catchy jingle stuck with you, and it also saved you from having to get out of bed to switch off the light.
Clap on, clap off.
Which made it convenient for older people. The sound-activated switch plugged into an existing outlet and had 2 spots to plug things in, and so these devices made great Christmas gifts. Although you can still buy a clapper today, there is no denying that the 1980s was when the clapper was in its prime. When you flip through an old 1980s yearbook, one of the things that really sticks out, or up, rather, is the hair and bangs of teenage girls. The higher you could make it, the better, and Aquanet hairspray was what kept everything nice and stiff. Taking cues from the hairbands of the day, teasing, spraying, and blow-drying is what kept household bathrooms occupied for hours.
I mean, listen, it's a little crazy looking, but I understand. I'm sure if you were to look back at images from your high school era, mine was in the year 2000s, right? If you look back at images from then, you'd also be pretty disgusted with what you're looking at. So then imagine going back every decade. All right, I get it.
While little brothers waited. The huge hair fad would end with the decade, and it gave way to the alternative grunge style of the 1990s, but not before it solidified itself as the hair that defined the 1980s.
It's a little better, but not much better. A little better. His haircut, amazing. Business in the front and party in the back. I like it.
If you were one of the ones that rocked the big hair, then you most likely also gave shoulder pads a try. These foam fashion statements were meant to give women a sharp, defined silhouette that rivaled the suits and ties worn by men. The 1980s primetime soap Dynasty loved the look, as it gave the actresses a distinct V shape which was slimming. The squared-off shoulder look went well with the brightly colored clothing and the 1980s aesthetics, but quickly fell out of style as the decade ended.
What? I am honestly extremely happy that I've never seen this in my life. I'm being honest.
There were many mail-order tape clubs during the 1980s.
I remember these.
But Columbia House is the one that I remember best.
Yeah, I remember
This
these.
was a way to get a dozen albums for pennies,
Oh,
which
yeah.
sounded too good to be true. So it had many of us signing up. The only catch was that you were billed at full price for future required purchases. That sometimes came as a surprise. Columbia House would also send you their selections of the month, and sometimes it was easier just to pay for them than it was to send them back. The novelty of the club wore off pretty quickly though, especially once the bills started rolling in for all the tapes you decided to keep. Let me know in the comments if I missed any of your favorite things that we have now abandoned.
Well, I mean, we abandoned this one here purely because we just don't need these things any longer. That's it. But I mean, I'll make an argument, a solid argument, though, to go back to physical media completely. We need physical media because a lot of these companies are getting you to sign up for things, and you're paying a monthly payment. You're getting extremely comfortable making all these playlists, listening to music and things like that. But all they have to do is lose their license. Once they lose their license to that very specific artist or movie, right, and you've been paying for it, once they lose their license, it's gone. That means that they are just going to walk away with your money, right? So with physical media, that can never happen. Like, you can still have that banned copy of, I don't know, Randomness, right? That they had to re-edit and edit out things. Get what I'm saying here? You can still have that. You paid for it one time, it's yours. Bring back physical media. But all right. Is that it? That's it. This one here was a good one. Of course, it's expected that I pretty much could pick up on a good amount of these because this is really close to me, right? And nothing was extremely surprising or like extremely foreign. This is not a far away land here, guys. This is home. We're still talking about waterbeds in the 80s, though. I don't know. Again, I'm very anti-waterbeds, guys. Too soft. Back hurts. I don't want that. I don't want that at all. We could talk about this absolutely gigantic headboard, though. I don't know what you would want this thing for. It's going to be all wood. It's going to be wood colored, and I don't know. I don't like the headboard neither. It has a mirror in it. I don't like this. I don't want to see this anymore. Let's go here. All right, listen. You guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly.